Whenever you're ready.
So today I'm in support of the claim that NASA should halt all manned space exploration for the foreseeable future. My first point is that we should send robots into space rather than humans. Subpoint A, robots were made to do more. According to NASA's Spaceflight, robots were built to do things that were too risky or impossible for humans to do. Robots can also withstand harsh conditions like extreme temperature or high levels of radiation, which are going to be present in space no matter what you do. And these can have long-term effects on humans depending on how long they're in space. Subpoint B is that human spaceflight is expensive. Robots don't require the same type of maintenance that humans do. According to NASA's Spaceflight, robots are cheaper because they don't need to eat or sleep or go to the bathroom. They can survive in space for many years and be left out there, so there is no need to have a direct descending ship right back to Earth, so it's a lot less expensive, and they don't require food or water or anything that they need to go to the bathroom, so that takes away some of the cost as well. According to Sarah Kramer, who is a science intern at Tech Insider, SpaceX claims that its Dragon cargo spacecraft launched on Falcon 9 rocket can carry up to 7,300 pounds. Full of supplies at launch, it costs $9,100 per pound. So depending on how many things that you need up in space with you, including food and water, that just adds to the cost, as well as the 7 astronauts that are also on board. According to Jeremy Hasu, who is a science writer, the final tally of the Space Shuttle's program's lifetime cost is roughly $1.5 billion per flight, which is just a lot of money in general. So my second point is that it is dangerous to send humans into space. Subpoint A is that spaceflight is the spaceflight associated deaths. So spaceflight has cost lives in the past. According to Mike Wall, who is a senior space writer, on January 28th in 1986, the Challenger broke apart less than 2 minutes after launching, killing the 7 astronauts that were on board. They didn't even get to go to space. They broke apart before they even made it, and all of them had passed away before they could do what they wanted to do. Mike Wall also goes on to discuss that on February 1st in 2003, the shuttle Columbia and 7 astronauts were lost during re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. So again, they didn't even get to complete their mission, and their lives were lost before they could do what they wanted. Mike Wall goes on to discuss that in the aviation world, it is common to test fly a new aircraft 1,000 times, but due to cost issues, it is impossible to extensively test spaceships. So if it's already expensive to send them up into space that one time, there's no way that they could possibly account for all the costs of test flying it. That would just increase the cost even more. There are also many hazards associated with spaceflight. A hostile enclosed environment is one hazard. Food, sleep, and exercise are essential for individuals to be happy and healthy, but that is unattainable while individuals are in space. According to NASA, radiation is also another hazard. Radiation exposure will increase the risk of cancer, damage the central nervous system, alter cognitive function, reduce motor function, and prompt behavioral changes. These are just more side effects that go along with being in space and can increase the longer that you're up there. Isolation is another hazard. Isolation and confinement leads to sleep loss, circadian desynchronization, and work overload. So that's when the sun sets and the sun goes down. That's when you know you're supposed to be awake and asleep, but that's not going to happen when you're in space, so it kind of messes you up in that way. The distance from Earth is also another hazard. In event of a medical emergency, the distance from Earth is great, and if you need medical attention right away, there's no way that you can get down in time for them to treat you. Gravity is another hazard. Returning to Earth causes the body to readapt to Earth's gravity. An individual's bones, muscles, and cardiovascular system are impacted from the time spent without standard gravity, and the longer that you're in space, the longer it's going to impact your body. So my third point is that robots are more efficient for a cheaper price. So according to phys.org, which is a science, research, and technology news aggregator, the shuttle program cost $750 million per launch in the recent 5 years of operation. This includes development costs, numerous safety modifications. Each shuttle launch could pay for 2 to 3 unmanned missions. So this would just be a lot more efficient for them to send robots into space because it's a lot cheaper. There are many Mars rovers that are having success, Francis Slakey, who is a physics and public policy lecturer at Georgetown, states that rovers can traverse planet's surface and test physical chemical properties of soil and collect samples before their return to Earth. So they can do this while multitasking, which is a lot more efficient than having to bring the samples down because they can test them and make sure there's something that they want to test. So rover Brewy can float in water and roll its wheels along the underside of an icy surface while taking pictures while collecting data. So again, this is more efficient because they can multitask in ways that humans cannot. The rover Hedgehog was developed with Stanford, MIT, and NASA, and it can explore small bodies like asteroids or comets, which have little gravity and rough terrain, and operate on all sides. So even if it were to fall over, it can still operate, so that's not going to be an issue. Puffer is another rover, and it can flatten and duck and investigate little tight areas that humans could never reach no matter how small they are, so they can really get into the core and make sure that they're seeing everything that they need to see. So lastly, robots are continuously advancing to better suit spaceflight. There have been a lot of improvements in controlled space robots. According to Aldo Spadoni, who is an MIT graduate with an aerospace engineering career for over 35 years, advances in VR systems and teleoperation will improve the ability of humans to remotely control a variety of complex robotic operations in space. The use of hand controllers will match the individual's movements to the robots, so they can still feel like they're doing what they need to do and make the robot do what they need without actually having to face the dangers of going into space. Francis Slakey goes on to discuss that telepresence is a remote projection of human abilities into a machine. It permits field study on other planets without any danger and logistical problems associated with human spaceflight. This robot has enhanced strength, endurance, and sensory capabilities, so it's like a human but even better because it can do far more than a human ever could. Thank you.